Alright, this is the tutorial for doing the different blur methods in Photoshop. So now this is kind of like a second part video. If you don't know how to do the blurring yet, I would suggest looking at the just the blurring the background tutorial. Give you kind of like a basic idea of how to do the blurring. But that tutorial basically just shows like the basic way to do the blurring. This one's kind of like more of an advanced version of the blurring method. But I do want to show you like different ways of how you can blur your photos. So, like for example, in this photo here, like typically we would apply the the regular Geschwant blur. So we would do the method we would do is we duplicate the layer. So I'm just gonna quickly go over again how to do the blurring. So you would type this as blur. So you're gonna make a duplicate of the background layer. So you have two copies of the layer, and in this layer you would do the blur. So usually we do the Geschwant blur, and Geschwant blur again. It's just it just blurs out the background. Okay, basically you just use the blur to have a focus on the center. So we're not going to use the Geschwant blur for this one. Now some of these photos that you do, it might be more beneficial to do a different type of blur to help to emphasize the story a little bit further. So one method you can do is blur. And if you click on Radial blur, we're actually going to apply like kind of like a zoom type of blur to it. So there are a lot of different ways you can do the blur. So if I click on zoom and I play around with the different amount, and I'm just going to try best quality. I haven't tried best quality before, but you're going to click OK. And it's going to create a different type of blur for you. So this is actually going to zoom in on a certain spot. So it actually zoomed in the middle. We don't want to zoom it in the middle, so I'm going to click Command Z to undo, and I'm going to do that blur again. I actually kind of liked how that blur looked. I'm going to go back to Radial blur, do zoom, do the best quality, and you can actually change where you want to put that blur. So like this is kind of like the crosshair for the area you want to focus on. So I'm going to focus on the top middle. I'll click OK. I'm still missing her face a little bit, so we're gonna move that a little bit more. But you have to like play around with this. There's no preview window for this type of blur method, so we'll try it now. Click OK. So that's actually pretty good. I got it on her eyes. So you apply your blur, and obviously this is a little too blurry. So then we would do the layer mask, reveal all. And remember with your layer mask, you can always color in black to erase certain parts, and the white will bring it back. So I'm going to get a real big fuzzy brush. So you just make sure it's a fuzzy brush with the fuzzy end. And I'm just going to do like 30. I'm going to erase like a 30 opacity at a time. So I'm just going to have it be like a focus on the face. But I need a little blur though. It does make that picture look a little bit more interesting. So you don't really focus on the clothes, it's mainly on the face, but you just have to play around with it, find an effect that you like. So I'm just going over it again with the white, because maybe I just want to just focus on just the eyes of the picture for this particular picture, but still like reveal a little bit of the face. So one method you can do is you can do it with the motion blur, but you can see the difference between here. It's gonna get rid of those details in the clothes. It's gonna zoom in on the face. So this kind of creates more of like a dramatic look for your image. Another method you can do too is you can do a motion blur too. So it's very similar to that zoom blur, but this time it's gonna do a motion from left and right. So like for example, like picture with like running, this might be a good time to use the motion blur. So you remember to do layer, duplicate, and again I'm going through this pretty quickly because I want to show you the different ways. But do look at the other tutorial because I do go a little bit slower. But I'm gonna do blur. I'm going to motion blur. All right, and then the motion blur, what that does is it moves things from left and right. So you can also change the angle, but I'm going to leave it at this angle here because it makes sense. It makes the most sense for this picture. And just play around with it. I wouldn't go too crazy with it, but just enough to kind of see the image. And click OK. Then do layers, layer mask, reveal all. And the same thing like I did before. I'm just gonna call in a little bit of the black at a time. And I'm just gonna focus on just the shoes here. You can go over it again with the white if you want to re-blur some of those parts, but this is like another effect you can do too. Like there's a lot of details, textures on the ground. Maybe I just want to focus on just the feet here. All right, but this is like an easy way to just focus on this part of the picture, just the feet. But you can see the difference. This helps to get like an emphasis to your image or a main focus. And then the last method that I'm going to show you, we're going to do that radial blur again, but we're going to do kind of like a swirl blur. So layer, duplicate, title this blur, so we know what blur it is. Go back to filter, blur, radial blur. Now there are a lot of different types of blurs, but these are like my 3 favorite ones to do. And instead of doing the zoom, we'll do a spin. And let's move the spin to the bottom right. So we're going to try to do it on that person, and then click OK. Alright, just gotta wait. It's a really big image. Whoa, I did too much of a blur. So we're actually going to not go so crazy with that. Let's change the amount. We'll do about like half of it. Actually want to move this up, so click OK. Let's try it now. You gotta like mess around with it, find something that you like. That's pretty good, but it's still a little too much. So radial blur. I actually got it in the right place though. Let's just lessen it by, we'll do it 6 points less. Okay, that's pretty good. So this is a pretty good blur. So layer mask, reveal all. This is going to erase it a little bit more. Change it to black. So obviously you want the focus to be that person there, and the white's going to blur it out again. But you can see a difference though. Now it's kind of creating more of like she's kind of like really dizzy, confused on where she's going, whereas this is like, oh, okay, we know that's the pathway to where she's saying, and then this is kind of creating more confusion, feeling a bit lost in the picture. So maybe you might want to show a little bit more, but it's kind of up to you. You have to play around with the erasing, basically just erasing the blurring. But these are like different blur methods you can do too, kind of just add a main focus, tell the story. You want to focus on her eyes because of the shock factor here. This one's kind of emphasizing the motion at the speed. This one's more of like confusion.